At 6:30, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I think everybody should have a copy of the agenda. The entire board's here with the exception of Bruce, who's overseas right now. Tom. I take a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded the agenda be accepted. All those in favor? Leanne wasn't here at the last meeting. You had left, so Tom, you're a voting member, a regular voting member at this meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes from the December 14th meeting?
I move we accept the minutes as printed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the minutes. All those in favor? Tom? 5-0-0. All right, we'll open the public hearing on the ordinances at 6:32. There are copies of all the ordinances to be changed that the planning board has jurisdiction over in the back of the room on that table. If you haven't picked up a copy, please do so. First ordinance on the agenda is the land use ordinance. And as you can see by the cover page, there's basically three changes, three different sets of changes to the land use ordinance. And as far as I know, they'll be voted individually at the town meeting. So that if someone doesn't like the changes that number 2 on that survey or summary page list, they can vote that down. They don't have to vote the other 2 changes down. If you look at the first one, it's limiting yard sales. We have the chief of police here who has helped in doing this. Chief, did you have anything you want to cover at this time on that, yard sales?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Second set of changes coincide with the state automobile junkyard salvage yard ordinance. On the third one, as you can see, deletes existing language that is inconsistent with the Maine state statute. It gives you the pages of the ordinance. Anyone from the public have any comments on that? No. Okay, if not, we'll move on to the second item, which was the site plan review ordinance.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
when will my motion be in order on the land use ordinance?
Well, why don't you bring it up now?
Can I bring it up now?
Yeah,
Let me get this mic.
and then we'll vote on it at the end of all the ordinances.
Thank you.
The planning board will.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to propose a fourth item on this land use changes to be voted on at annual town meeting, which would make an allowed use of fireworks stores in the C2 and C3 zones, which would place them in commercial districts at either end of town. That would have no effect on the current fireworks store that's there now, but it would make a allowed use for future applications if any were to ever come before the town.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody in the board have any comments on that?
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, anybody in the public? Okay, Mark,
I will clarify that the regular commercial zone is mostly downtown, and the lots probably wouldn't meet the state codes for a fireworks store, which needs certain amount of area, needs to be in a freestanding building, so that's why I chose the two zones on the outer ends of the town.
okay, we'll vote on that.
Mr.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mark, it is my understanding that by allowing the fireworks stores to be in these two zones, they are therefore not allowed in any other zone. Is that correct?
That's the purpose of the amendment, yes. That would be probably up to a court if somebody challenged it, but that's the purpose of that amendment.
Okay, as I was going to say, Mark, we'll vote on that as a board after we go through all the ordinances.
Thank you.
Pardon? Are you asking for a second? No, not at this point.
I didn't make a motion, I just said I'm going to make a motion.
Okay, the next item is a site plan review. Should all have copies of that. There's some changes on that. Requesting an architectural rendering, elimination of the school superintendent, water district superintendent when it's not needed. Change of the public hearing notice back to where it was with one published notice. And also clearing up, allowing CEOs to approve the same usage. Does the board have any comments?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
It's my understanding that on the page 4, the request for an architectural rendering wouldn't necessarily have to be done by a licensed architect, but would need to be a presentable architectural rendering.
That's correct.
That's correct, okay, thank you.
We have paperwork for a graph put that on, right? Sometimes we don't get those.
Right. Any other comments from the board? From the general public?
Ted Kessler, Searsport resident. I have a comment that's directed to site plan review ordinance, page 6, item 3. It's regarding notifications. And if you like, I can read the sentence that I'm commenting about. It says the planning board shall post and notify the applicant of the time, date, and place of the hearing. And then crossed out is at least 2 times the date of the first publication to be. That's crossed out. And then it continues, the planning board shall have published at least 7 days prior to the hearing in a newspaper of area-wide circulation, the time, date, and place of the hearing. The abutting property owner shall be notified of the hearing by regular mail, the failure of which shall not constitute grounds for the invitation of any approval issued under this ordinance. My comments really are directed to three basic things. I don't believe the change nor that part of the ordinance provides for adequate notification and timely notification for the affected parties to become sufficiently informed of the applicant's proposal. Secondly, it does not really specify who is responsible for notifying the abutters, the time frame for doing so, or the content of the notification. And three, basically, if you believe in fairness and an open approval process, an adequate notification procedure is fundamental to that result. So I have a suggested alternative, which I will read, and then I have copies for you all to consider. And the alternative is an attempt to balance the practical administration with a fair and open practice to benefit both the planning board and the affected parties. And it reads, "The planning board shall post and notify the applicant of the time, date, and place of the hearing. Before the hearing, the planning board shall have published, in the time period between 15 business days, but not less than 10 business days, the time, date, and place of the hearing in one local newspaper and a second paper of area-wide circulation. The board shall also post and cause to be displayed a similar public notice of the hearing in at least 2 public government offices or sites, for example, the town office and the town post office during the same time period. The planning board or their appointed designee shall notify the abutting property owners of the hearing by regular mail, postmarked within the same time period specified for the published or posted notices. The failure of the mail service shall not constitute grounds for the invalidation of any approval issued under this ordinance. Further, the planning board shall be responsible for the content of the notice to abutters, which shall contain at minimum the applicant name, physical and tax map location of the site, a summary description of the applicant's intent or project, and 1, a statement that a copy of the application is available in the town office, and 2, a statement that the planning board may, at the close of the hearing, determine the application is complete and proceed with the site plan review process for final approval. I don't see that these suggested changes cause any insurmountable obstacles and that would prevent any incorporation into the site plan review permitting process. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Does anyone else from the public have any comments?
I'm Meredith Ayers from Norris Street in Searsport. At one of the previous meetings of this board, I don't remember if it was the last one or the one before that, 2 citizens made a suggestion about a small change in the site plan review ordinance that would have made sure that people tell the truth when they come in, when they fill out their application, and when they give testimony to the board. When I looked through the site plan review ordinance changes that you're submitting to the town meeting, or that you are considering tonight, I didn't see that language in there. I have a copy of it. It was first submitted, I believe, by Ann Cremato and Phyllis Summer, and they wanted to add to Section 8, item C, this language. Any misrepresentations, inaccuracies, or omissions on the application or during the applicant's testimony, whether deliberate or accidental, shall be considered a violation of the ordinance and may nullify the permit. I was sorry to see that that hadn't been included in the language and the changes that you're considering tonight, because I think it's important to maintain the credibility of our town government and of the boards and committees that serve the town, that we don't tolerate people coming and knowingly lying to us. And the just recent events have shown that the planning board does not have tools to deal with this if it does occur, because there's nothing in the ordinance that allows anybody to go back and say, no, wait a minute, no, that wasn't right. In order to, I would hate to see the town of Searsport get the reputation, and I've said this once before, I'd hate to see the town of Searsport get the reputation of being a place where you can come in and say whatever you think they want to hear, the town wants to hear, get your permit, and then do as you please. You don't have to keep your promises, you don't have to keep your commitments, you don't have to tell the truth in the hearings or on your application. I think that would be a terrible reputation for us to get, because then there's no incentive for anybody to deal with this honestly and fairly. So I would hope that the board would reconsider this and consider adding it to the site plan review ordinance. Thank you very much. I have copies of it here.
Does anyone else in the audience have anything that they want to add, comments to the site plan review?
Jay Economy, resident of Searsport. Following up on Mr. Kessler's recommendations, I just want to emphasize that I agree that a 7-day notice to abutters, although your current recommendation doesn't specify the time frame that abutters need to be noticed, but if it's 7 day, I think that we need to have much greater notification of something coming in. I think 21 days would be more sufficient to allow an abutter to be able to consult an attorney if he needed to, consult an attorney to review the request and all. But 7 days is certainly insufficient. You may be on vacation, not even get the notification. I think extending it to at least 21 days would provide a greater opportunity for abutters to be able to have a knowledgeable response to what is being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the public have a comment to make on the site plan review? Okay, hearing none, we'll take those two up later tonight at the end of this session. The next ordinance is a shoreland zoning ordinance. And this is done, the state has sent us a model ordinance to let everyone know, and that's what you see here is the state's model ordinance. And what we've done in the past has been go along with whatever the state dictates, really. Board have any comments on that? We spent, what, 2 nights going through that, line by line? Okay, the public have any comments on the shoreline zoning ordinance? Okay, hearing none, we'll move right along. The next ordinance is an ordinance for the establishment, organization, administration of the planning board. And, pardon? Sure, go ahead.
Stephen Tangway, Searsport. Just a question on the deletion of the commercial, commercial 2 zone as required by the shoreland zoning. I'm in the commercial 2. Does that change my designation, or is it just to do with the shoreland zone?
That's just the shoreline zoning, Steve.
Okay,
You're not in that zone.
okay, great.
Okay. In the shoreline zoning. It's just
Even-
3 places, as I recall, the St. Loft, the restaurant, and across from the restaurant.
Okay,
If you look at the shoreline zoning map, which I forget, yeah, if you look at the last page of this.
yep, I did do that.
Okay, you see what,
So the maps are all of it.
pardon?
And I'm in a limited commercial. Isn't that commercial 2?
Limited commercial 2, they're the only 3 where the arrows are pointing. Okay, the one, do you see that on the last page?
Yep, I do.
The
Yes, I
diagram?
do.
Okay, the arrow on the right-hand side is the Seine Loft. It's pointing to the Seine Loft.
Okay, that's fine. I thought I was in the limited commercial 2 zone, so
No,
that clarifies.
no.
Okay.
Why don't you come up
I got
here,
it. No, I see.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, in the center is the mill pond, which is nowhere near your place,
I know.
all right?
So I'm just limited. Commercial. Okay, so it doesn't affect our zoning.
No,
All right,
it's just those 3 that almost look like spot zoning.
okay. All right, I appreciate that.
That's okay. Okay, getting back to the planning board ordinance, the first Article 1.2 is authority which reestablishes the planning board under a new state statutes, which should have been done around 1997. Article 2.5 removes the possibility of incompatible positions in non-residential position, non-resident positions, I'm sorry. Does the board have any comments?
No.
No? General public? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to the last one, which is the subdivision ordinance. Our subdivision ordinance was patterned after a model ordinance from the southern part of the state, and it was redone 6 years ago, and inadvertently, the part about, in the performance guarantee in Article 11, the part about a conditional agreement was not put in. So we want to rectify that at this time. This would have no bearing on anything that's been passed or hasn't been passed. It's not a retroactive.
This would only be new applications that come in after, if approved at town meeting.
That's correct.
Yep.
And what it really allows the applicant, if he doesn't have the money to put a complete road, say road in, he can sell off 2 or up to 4 lots. We could specify something less than 4. Sell those off to get the money to finish the road. Or utilities, whatever you designate. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, let's go into the general public. Comments or questions? Okay, hearing none then. We'll close the public hearing on the ordinance at this time. Take a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, let's take Mark's addition.
I move we approve Mark's suggestion that fireworks store be allowed in zones C2 and C3.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, on the question, are there any questions, comments from the board? All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, the next one is Mr. Kessler's addition, requested addition for notifications, a butter notification.
I move we approve the suggestion for abutter notifications presented by Mr. Ted Kessler.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Is there a question on that? Tom?
Yeah, I have a question. So we have a proposal that came before us. We have 2 now. Do we present both of these at the town meeting, or just one that we vote on?
No, we have to vote on to present them, and then they'd be presented at town meeting, yeah.
So we would offer the town 2 options in this case.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We have what was brought forth in our paperwork here, and then we have Ted's suggestion. We would vote either or. We would not be presenting both options to the town at town meeting.
We present them both.
Okay.
And town would vote one way or
Okay.
the other on both options.
That would be unless we voted to remove our option, right?
Well, we didn't have an option on, well, yeah.
Yeah.
we
I'm not proposing that, I'm just saying
Yeah,
that.
this
that
would be a
yeah.
second option to that.
That's not normally the way that we have handled that, though, is it?
That's the way I was told, but,
That's the way you were told
yeah,
by,
by the town manager.
okay. I wasn't aware you could vote either or at town meeting.
Not
normally.
either or, no. We'd have to vote to get rid of,
Right, my understanding is you go to town meeting with one
right.
ordinance, not both. Okay.
Well, then we would have to make a vote tonight to eliminate the original.
Yeah,
As
we don't
printed.
have to do it tonight.
Okay.
we can do it
What's our drop
Next
deadline? Next meeting?
next meeting, yeah. Personally, I'd like some time to really look at these, both of them. I did have some questions on the one that Ann put through as to a time limit on this. We get into some other sticky things if we don't put a time limit, which I brought up to Ann that night. I'm still trying to get an answer from some attorneys on this as far as limiting the time on nullifying a permit because of vested interests of both parties.
You're talking about Ann's, not
The one we've
Yeah, I
been looking
haven't
at.
really looked at.
Yeah, that's,
either.
my question on Ann's would be, I like it, but I'd like to see the attorney say that it can fly.
Right.
George, I'd like to come back to the Ted Kessler proposal.
Sure.
I'm not sure since we're not voting on the ordinance changes as a whole, at town meeting, we'd be taking each separate change.
Yeah.
Then I would think we could propose both, the 7-day and Mr. Kessler's proposal, and the town can vote one of them up or down, or both of them down. But I do not think we would have to pick and choose one or the other. We could present both at the town meeting.
Well, again, generally, and James obviously spoke to that, but normally you vote the ordinance as a
Right.
whole.
Right.
Yeah.
But
town
we're
meeting.
not, but we're not doing that. It's my understanding. We're voting on individual changes to each ordinance.
What's-
James, you want to clarify
Yeah,
that?
I need your opinion.
Generally, when a public hearing is held, you hear the public comment, you take it back, you vet it with the attorney to make sure that's being proposed is legal, and then you vote in the next meeting for what you as a board wants to bring forward to the town meeting. In the past, we've had competing articles when it came to different budget items and even articles. It's a bit of a sticky wicket when you do that because one becomes legal, and if the next one behind it changes it significantly, that becomes legal. So nothing becomes legal till the end of the meeting, and everything's revisitable before the end of the meeting. So it does make a little more sense to go forth with one recommendation. But again, I strongly suggest, and I haven't seen Mr. Kessler's recommendation, that be vetted with the legal advice, because the law, Title I, Section 602, I think it is, actually spells out not only the newspaper, but that it has to be in English and it has to be in the general vicinity of the project. And there are some things that if you start messing with it, you actually might advantage someone when you really don't want to do that. And our public notice laws have been on the books for a number of years and changed over the years. So I just say it'd be better to make sure that it's all vetted and perhaps go to the town meeting with one that the board approves. And if it doesn't fall into what the public here has recommended, then there's always another shot at that. Plus, there's the petition venture that people can get a petition up and make an article come to a town meeting. So there's a couple of things to think about.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend my motion that we table Mr. Kessler's proposal until the next meeting after this has been given to our attorney to see if it's kosher.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we table this or continue this at our next meeting and make a decision at our next regular meeting.
Will it be presented to the attorney then between the two meetings?
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor? 5-0-0. Okay, the other suggested addition It was originally from Ann Cremato. I'd like a motion on that.
On Ann's or Meredith's?
Well, they're both the same.
Same, all right. I propose we also table the suggestion of Meredith Ayers and Ann Cremato until the next meeting to have our attorney check this over. I think there are some legal things that we need to have checked out before we approve this. I know there's a body of law now regarding what happens when untruthfulness prevails or comes out, at a permitting thing, and I think she should check this out to make sure we don't get ourselves in hot water. But I can appreciate the sentiment behind it.
Is there a second on that motion? I'll second it. It's been moved and second that we continue this until our next regular meeting in February. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, let's move on to the sixth item, which is continuance of the site plan review for Dublin. Give the board some background. I asked Randy, the code enforcement officer, to do some additional work. And Bruce had also, and you'll see him in our minutes, Bruce had also wanted us to notify the Belfast abutters, and you'll see a copy, and I believe I emailed you a copy, but if I hadn't, you'll see a copy of the notice I sent out to them, and on the second page you'll see the folks that it was sent to. This was sent out almost a month ago on 12/16. After our meeting. You also have in that package their locations, a tax map from Belfast. You should also have their names on a real estate account list by map and lot from Belfast. We had one response to that from out of 8 or 9 people. It was 8 people I think we sent that out to. And Mr. Sabone is, I think you can see that, is the Schweikert family revocable trust. You have a copy of his initial email to me, and on the back of it were a list of questions. You should also have a Google, Randy gave us a Google map of Mr. Schweikert's home. And he was nice enough, Randy, to put a measurement of the deciduous trees and also the valley that's in there. It is apparently 271 feet wide. We can go over these questions. I'd like to go over them, as a matter of fact. First question was, can you list the kind of events that are allowed under an R2 zone? There is no restriction to the events that are in any of our zones. And I believe this next question, Mr. Dublin did answer, will there be on-site owner supervision during events? That was answered at our last meeting.
Is that still a no?
At the moment, we can't guarantee that we will personally be present at every event, as lots of times we're not invited to every wedding. But we are having a responsible party via contract for the rental agreement on the property and premise. So we will have a responsible party listed with their contact information on hand.
Thank you.
The third question, will there be a 24/7 phone number available to the owner? And the answer to that was brought out last time, which was yes. Limited on a maximum number of people for each event held there. We haven't limited the maximum number of people. Will police details be required for larger events? There was no decision made to that. Will there be a limit on the maximum number of cars allowed on the site? There was no limit to that, although there was no on-street parking of cars. I believe you showed us where the parking was last meeting, was in front of the garage.
Correct.
In that area. Will there be a 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. quiet time established for outside noise or music? We didn't come up with any decision on that at the last meeting. Will there be a maximum decibel level set for various times of day, evening or night? The town does have a maximum decibel level in the land use ordinance. Where on the property will tents be set up? I believe you showed us that in the last meeting. And I
Mr.
believe
Chairman,
it's on your site plan also. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
can we go back to the question 8? Because in the event rental agreement that was distributed tonight, there is a quiet time mentioned. Yes, we'll begin at 10 p.m. and all entertainment and music will be turned down to 60 decibel levels, reading at the property level by 10 p.m.
That's right in your agreement, which we got tonight, so it wasn't covered actually. Thanks, Brian, for bringing that up. Where will the portable toilets be located? I think you gave us that last meeting also. Did you? Will events be scheduled year-round? I believe you responded with a yes on that.
Yes.
Some would be indoor, obviously, this time of the year. Are permits required for any events? Not in the town of Searsport, they're not. Will Airbnb rentals be accepted? I don't see your name on Airbnb. The only person that I was able to find in Searsport that uses Airbnb is the property right behind the fireworks building. They're the only rental on Airbnb that I can find on Airbnb. And do you have any plans on being on that for what it's worth?
You'd have to explain it to me.
It's a website.
Perfect. It's the World Pipe.
I'm sure your son knows it.
World Pipe, it comes down and you can.
Someone else had a question about why the police signed off. I don't know, was it you, Tom? Okay, it was someone on the board, and I forgot to get to look at the tape to see who that was. I see the chief here. Chief, could you come up and give us an idea? First of all, was there a problem? You signed right off on it. I take it there was no problem with traffic, but maybe you can expand on that. And also about excessive noise or a crowd getting out of control. Could you expound on that?
I don't recall the time frame as to when I signed or didn't sign. I was on vacation for a little bit of December. So I'm not sure of the time frame there. As far as parking on Route 1, that would not be permissible. I didn't see any issues with access in and out there. As across the road, there is an ongoing business. Just a little ways away, probably a quarter of a mile more or less, we have the state park. That is open for at least 6-7 months a year, with a number of visitors there daily. So overall, I didn't see any real concern at this time with, access in or out. As far as the noise goes, this would fall under the criminal law of disorderly conduct if the police were called there for an excessive noise complaint. Typically, following the law, if a citizen complained about excessive noise, the call would go to the dispatch center, most likely. Police would respond, try to get a feel for what is going on at the site, and understand that at that particular point, you're dealing with human element, and at this time, there are 3 full-time police officers in the town of Searsport. We have 8 reserves, and each one of those police officers has their own opinion, their own education, their own training, their own experience. And so what I'm saying to you is I may get called there, and what would be excessive to me may not be excessive to Officer Remillard or Officer Mushrow, as an example. So typically, in a situation like that, we would ask the property owner or the person in charge of the event, we've been called here because of noise. Could you please turn it down? And we would, at that point, go on our merry way. We would say prior to leaving, if we were called back here, then we will ask you to please shut it down. And that essentially follows the disorderly conduct law. It allows for, in my opinion, it allows for common sense. It allows for the establishment to work with the police the police are also working with the establishment. Questions?
Does the board have any questions of the chief? Chief, we do have another B&B that has events and has been authorized to have events, that being A.V. Nichols. And A.V. Nichols is surrounded by residential homes, actually a denser surrounding than would be down where we're looking now to have events. Have you had any problems with the events at A.V. Nichols?
No.
Okay, thank you.
May I just make one
Sure.
more comment? Again, if the police were called hypothetically to a situation as I previously described, and we ended up having to go back, the district attorney's office, we've been in consultation with other businesses in Searsport since I've been here as the chief concerning noise. And 10 o'clock, and I think you referred to 10 p.m. in previous testimony. So that's kind of the guideline that the district attorney's office gives the police guidance in this particular area. So again, since I've been here, we've never issued a summons for disorderly conduct to an establishment. We have gone back to establishments and asked them to lower the tone, and the compliance has always been 100%.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question. With the A.V. Nichols, you have a person there all the time, though. You have the property owner. Is that the person you deal with when or is it, you've never had a call back there specifically?
We've never been called there.
Okay, thank you.
Can I clarify that? You've never been called back under the present owner, right? But you've been called there under the previous owner?
Under a different police chief.
Oh, okay. One other question, which, if, say, a resident of Belfast calls to complain, it would still be Searsport would be dispatched out to check it, right?
Yes, but we would be in consultation with the Belfast Police Department.
Okay, because it's on the town line, so.
Yes, and I'm well aware, matter of fact, previous career, I spent a lot of time in that area. I'm very familiar with the flow of the land. The valley is extensive. There is a lot of wood line there, and there also are some nice homes there.
So in your professional opinion, does it make a difference that whether there's an on-site owner to contact or not?
I do not believe that the actual owner has to be there. I think a person who is in charge can certainly, and certainly would be able to deal with the police in a situation if called upon.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Sure.
By the photo that Randy sent us, it says 271.56 feet from the corner of that parking lot to the line right there. Have you seen this?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
looking at it right now.
But as far as my understanding is, most everything will be over here, which adds more distance.
Another 150 feet or so.
Yeah.
As well as a house for buffer
Right,
for
yeah.
noise, that's
what
correct.
So I don't think that if they do like they say they're gonna do, which I'm assuming they will, and the pictures show they will, there's more than, it'd be like 400 feet almost between the two, which makes a difference in the woods all through here too.
It's almost, well, it's almost a football field.
To right here.
200,
Right here.
yeah, to
Then
there.
you're way over here.
You've got another half a football field. So you're talking 1.5 football fields away, right,
Vegetation's quite a lot down there, like she said.
right.
Thank you.
In fact, have you run any tests or anything as far as noise goes?
Yeah, actually, we have run some
I
tests.
know Bruce
with-
talked to you about doing that
Yes,
last.
I spoke with a few people on it, and what we ended up doing was using a decibel meter application and testing decibels at different points of the property with a speaker system plugged in and cranking. And no, the police did not show up while we were administering such tests, but it allowed us an opportunity to test decibels at different points on the property to see during, a full bore event with loud music, exactly what we were getting for readings. So estimates were taken along, and we have estimated the decibel level that would yield approximately a 60 decibel at the nearest boundary, which was on the Searsport boundary side where the housing development theoretically could be, as well as decibel reading that would be close to where that brook was, as well as down along the beach. And with our speaker system that was tested, we found that to get anything reading 60 decibels on that side, close to those Belfast, like I said, I haven't ventured over the bank there and up onto the front lawn of someone else's property, but what we did find is that to get about 60 decibels down there, it was difficult because the wind would read about 70 decibels. Just for reference anyways, we would have to have a stereo pushing at about 105 decibels. And that was loud.
Yeah, I guess it was that 105 decibels is supposedly a rock band at 10 to 15 feet.
That sounds accurate. Yeah, in front of a speaker, my resources put at 115 would be a rock concert, 6 feet in front of a speaker. So I don't anticipate ever having sound equipment like that on site. That would be way overkill for the venue that we're trying to operate.
Okay. I think you all got copies of another handout that is excerpts from the land use ordinance. And an event center isn't described in that R2 zone, although B&Bs are. And as I stated earlier, we already have a B&B as an event center, and I think you all have copies of that. And you should all have copies of the site plan from June of 2011, where we okayed that. And you should have copies of that finding of facts for that same site plan, where there were actually no limitations on size or audio. There was a limitation that the applicant put on himself, which you can see in the proposed use of that property. I think it's the third paragraph and the end of the third paragraph there. And you should have a zoning map also, a copy of that. And we're talking about, and it looks like property 1B is the A.V. Nichols property. And you can see it's a residential area surrounding that. And you can also see that the commercial area, which is just on Route 1, it looks like 2-1 is Homeport, which is a residential use, obviously. To the right of 1B is another commercial property, which is a residence home, and so is 26. Across Route 1, you have 34 and whatever it is, 52. 55, is it? They're both residents. So that being said, I'm going to make a motion that it is a similar use to a B&B, which is allowed in that zone.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and second. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? 5-0-0. Okay, the next thing we should do is look at the land use ordinance. There's standards in there. Before we proceed, does anyone have any questions of the applicant at this time that we haven't covered, that maybe came up since last meeting, that the board wanted to cover with Mr. Dudley?
I have a question. And it may be covered in here, but I didn't see it. There's a stipulation in the A.V. Nichols that over 150 guests at a function would have security between the hours of 9 p.m. and midnight. Do you have any type of requirement for a large event?
At this time, we're looking at party size. It's in that, in the handout that we gave you previously. Once we get in excess of a planned 200 guests, we're going to take further measures and make sure that we notify, the police department, and to anyone else that would like to be notified of such events happening, just so that we cover our basis, that everyone knows there is a larger influx of people happening that night. Again, we're not looking at the size of the crowd as being more disturbing or another than a smaller crowd, but we're really more concerned about the sound associated with a larger crowd. As far as security goes, like we said, we do have a sole person responsible, and that will be the rentee of the house. And of course, being that it is our property, we want to take every precaution that we can to make sure that nothing gets damaged.
I see. Okay, but there's nothing in the lease requirement right now?
At this moment, there's nothing in the lease requirement concerning hired security at such events. That's something that, depending on the type of event, we might need to look into further. Private weddings, things of that nature, we don't foresee the need at this point, but that's something that we'll surely be in touch with you about.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick comment. I've been thinking about this since the last meeting, and knowing the issues that came up with the A.V. Nichols, with the previous owner, my biggest concern, I think, is probably is my concern for you folks dealing with a potential problem down the road. And I don't think any of us are being adversarial at the last meeting and trying to make sure that you don't have a problem where the police are called in or you have neighbors who are upset, because that got really messy. And some of those folks are here tonight, and it was very expensive for everybody concerned. So I guess my comment is that if there is a problem, if there's a concern, that you amend the process as it goes along. I don't think you want to have any more aggravation than anybody else does here. But it would be unfortunate to have this big investment causing a lot of aggravation for the abutters and for you as well. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if in fact you do have some issues in the future, that it obviously would make most sense to say, okay, well, maybe we need to have, change the hours, maybe instead of 10 p.m., it's 9 p.m. Because the intangible here is that we have a whole area where there's nothing right now, but there's going to be at some point. And of course, you do have people on the other side already. So I think as long as you're willing to be amenable to adjusting as you go down the road, I get that sense that we're dealing with that attitude, that we're headed in the right direction.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Does anyone else have any comments before we get started on this? Okay, let's go to the land use ordinance on page 28. At least it's 28 on my ordinance. It's section 5, subsection A under section 5. And there's actually 4 different standards here that would apply. And I'd like a motion on each one of the 4. Yeah, I'm waiting for. Brian, can you, if Mark doesn't have a copy of it, can you share your copy? Yeah, I already did. Okay, the first one's danger. No material which is dangerous due to explosion, extreme fire hazard, chemical hazard, or radioactivity shall be used. Is this applicable, and if so, can we get a motion?
I move it is not applicable.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that this is not applicable in this particular case. All those in favor? 5-0-0. Okay, vibration, with the exception of vibration necessarily involved in construction or demolition, no unreasonable vibration shall be transmitted outside this lot. A motion on that?
I move this is not applicable.
Is there a second? Tom? All those in favor? 5-0-0. Waste, no offensive waste shall be discharged or dumped into any river, water, storm drain, pond, lake, swamp. Industrial wastewater may be discharged to municipal sewers only. Is this applicable?
I move it's applicable and it has been met, making sure that no waste is discharged where it shouldn't be, and that it's taken care of and the property is maintained, without a lot of waste on it, is covered in a couple of sections of the rental agreement.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that this is is covered. All those in favor? 500. Noise, the level of sound shall not exceed 70 dBAs between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and 60 dBAs between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. And that's at the boundaries of the lot, of any lot used for a residential purpose. Motion on that?
Question, or maybe one motion first.
Sure. Question?
We give him until 10 o'clock, to 60 instead of 7.
Yeah, we're restricting it more actually with this.
Yeah, but if you want to be restricted to 7 o'clock or 60 decibels,
Well, all your tests were under 60 or at 60, I believe. Can you say?
Our test would read at 60 decibels on the Belfast side of the
Right.
property there, close to where that drawing was. I don't believe we have an issue with that side. Currently, there is no development on the Searsport side of the property. However, given that you said that was 7 p.m.,
Yes.
at 7 p.m., it is possible that the decibel reading could be closer to 70 or so on that other side at the property boundary, depending on the stereo system used, of course, and the volume of such. That would be the issue that I foresee. Currently, there is no development there later down the road. Given that there is high potential, of course, will be at some point.
to me, this sounds more like a commercial and industrial noise. And he's gonna have, so I would almost think it doesn't, you can't see it doesn't apply to that. We got 7 p.m. for him, for them, I should say. It's way too early. That's my own opinion.
Well, the other thing is, does it really apply?
Right, that's what I was trying to get at.
I'll make a motion that does apply and that it will be met for 2 reasons. One, after 10, in their rental agreement, they put it will not be more than 60, and their tests show that it approached 70, at the boundary line. And I think based on their testing would show that they would not have a problem complying with this, when they're actually renting it.
Okay.
But isn't that outside our ordinance, though?
No, they've got to
No.
comply with it between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. The fact that they don't specify 7 p.m. in the contract doesn't mean they can't meet the 70 decibel level. And I think his tests show that they will meet that level.
Yeah, but they gotta meet this, they gotta meet a 60 decibel level after 7 p.m. Right, on the Searsport side, if they're gonna meet this
Yeah,
requirement.
on either side.
Yeah.
That's why the 10 o'clock's gotta be in there. We gotta come up with a better solution, I think.
Well, we can't right now because it's in the ordinance. So, it's a possibility, I would think, and it has to be met.
What do you have for buffering on the Searsport? I know you got buffering on the Belfast side. What do you have on the Searsport side?
There is currently a nice stand of trees in between there. However, the property line on this property doesn't go far beyond the trees. If you look at that drawing that you had made out there that should be in front of you, you can see, if you look at the Searsport side of the house, you see your open field, and then into that wood line, about the width of your fingernail there. I'd say approximately 20, maybe 30 feet or so is where the property line's going to be.
Okay, I didn't know where the property line was. Yeah.
Well, there's no question, it's in the ordinance, it'll have to be met, whether it takes a fence to be put up there, we'll just have to go, and I think to Tom's point, we're gonna work this out one way or the other.
It may be the vegetation that's there will be adequate because Randy indicated there is a gully there, so a lot of the trees on your side of the gullies are going to remain. My concern, of course, is that your rental agreement is saying 10 p.m., the ordinance is saying 7 p.m., and so there's a mismatch there between what you're telling your guests and what could be a problem. Hopefully it won't be, but
Exactly.
Yeah, we did, and that was prior to this ordinance.
I mean, putting our decibel rating lower would give us a...
Yeah, we can look at that.
Everyone's 10.
Every other place that we looked into that has events in the whole area was at least till 10 o'clock at night. And that's why we use that same number. It would be a disadvantage to us if we couldn't go to that time.
Well,
I
that's,
think the
I
noise
believe we,
restriction-
oh, excuse me, I believe we gave AV Nichols 9 PM if this is what I read, for the outside entertainment.
well, there's no question it'll have to be met, according to the ordinance, unless the ordinance is changed at some future time down the road. Now, it's up to the applicant to meet this. So, whether Tom's suggestion, whether, additional buffering is needed to meet it or not.
it may be a moot point. It may not be an issue, but it's the current ordinance, unfortunately, for you folks.
Positioning of the speakers may also affect it if they're aimed in toward the house.
At this point, the testing for the Belfast side is 60 dB at the property line, so that's a non-issue. We'll assume it's a non-issue. We're looking now at the Searsport side, where there is no abutter, no residential abutter at this point, but could conceivably be one. So you have some wiggle room here to sort out and evaluate through possibly some short period of time at least. I'm sure you would have some events before a house showed up there to see if this is going to, what you need to do to mitigate the potential problem. So my suggestion would be to stay with our ordinance, with the caveat that you may have to direct speakers in a certain way to meet that. I suspect that 60 dB is doable at the property line at 7 PM without affecting an event, but I haven't been out there testing either. And I'm not going to be putting a baby to sleep maybe at 8 PM.
Randy?
If I could make a suggestion, we've run into this before, and you guys are all making good points, but because it's an unknown on that side of the property line, the way the ordinance reads, if there is a violation, they have to correct that violation. So my suggestion is, if they're willing, like Tom's saying, they come to that point, and if there is a violation, then I go speak to them, or in this case, it's code officer that goes and speaks to them, tells them that they have to correct it, and they have a certain time to correct it. If they don't correct it, then they're in violation of the ordinance. Otherwise than that, because again, it's an unknown, we don't know what that would be. That's just a suggestion I have.
I guess the other supporting thing in their favor is that this has not been an issue at AV Nichols, and they're going to 9 o'clock at night under a previous ordinance. So I think that works in your favor.
And since you're golden until some houses show up on the Searsport side, so you've got some time to get it taken care of.
Okay, then, is this met? We have
I'd say it's been met.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? You're abstaining, okay. So it's 4-0-1. Okay, so that takes care of the land use standards, general performance standards. We can move on to, and I have page 7 of the site plan review, section 6, standards of approval. Okay, the first one being preserve and enhance the landscape. This is basically a construction item, so it may not be applicable or applicable.
I would say it's not applicable since they're not building anything.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that this is not applicable. All those in favor? 5-0-0. Second one is relationship of proposed buildings to the environment. Again, this is maybe not applicable because it's basically for new buildings.
I move it's not applicable because it is not a construction project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that this is not applicable. All those in favor? 5-0-0. Vehicle access.
I move this is applicable and has been met. The police chief has signed off.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0-0. Fourth is parking and circulation.
That's been met, and he had, he designated parking areas, and the police chief signed off on the whole thing.
Yeah, and the
I
fire
sec-
chief did also.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Number 4, parking and circulation has been met. All those in favor? 5-0-0. Surface water drainage.
I move this is not applicable because it is not a construction project.
Second.
Moved that number 5 is surface water drainage is not applicable. All those in favor? 5-0-0. 6 is existing utilities. The water company still hasn't given me a response. I believe that it was brought up last meeting that the applicant had met with the water company and is having the water turned on and everything seems to be fine.
I move that this is applicable and it has been met because there is currently water there. I don't know if there's sewer or not, but also when they have extra numbers of people there for a wedding or whatever, they've got a requirement in their rental agreement about the number and types of portable facilities.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that this has been met. All those in favor? 5-0-0. Advertising features, size, location, design, lighting material of all exterior signs.
I move this is, I guess, not applicable because there aren't any signs.
Let me
Right.
just ask, didn't you bring up?
We
you
probably
may
will
have-
be putting up a sign.
Okay.
Right now, if you look at the sign for the Searsport veterinary offices just down the road from us, it'll probably be something very similar in size to that.
Okay, and where would the light shine? Would be away from the road if you put a light on it
Definitely.
at night?
Definitely.
Okay, then I move it's applicable and it has been met.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's moved and seconded that it is applicable and it's been met. All those in favor? 5-0-0. Special features of the development, which is exposed storage areas, machinery outside, audio and visual buffers.
I think we've sort of covered that. you know, between discussions on noise, and whatever, so I would say it's been met.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? 500. Exterior lighting.
So we covered the advertising signs, and this is not that. This would be the exterior lighting, the house. I say it's applicable and it has been met. There's enough of a woods buffer between the properties on either side of it that if there's any lighting outside for an evening event in the tent, that it would not be injurious to the abutters.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Number 9, exterior lighting has been met. All those in favor? 500. Emergency vehicle access. Again, that's been signed off by the ambulance director and the fire chief.
I move it's been met because it's been signed off by the ambulance director and the fire chief.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Number 10, emergency vehicle access has been met. All those in favor? 500. Number 11, municipal services. Development will not have unreasonable adverse effect on municipal services. Fire, police department.
They all signed off.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Number 11, municipal services has been met. All those in favor? 500. Water pollution.
Enough said. I believe it's applicable, but it's been met because of the setbacks and the requirements for on-site facilities
Second.
in the lease.
It's been moved and seconded. Number 12, water pollution has been met. All those in favor? 500. On-site water supply. Again, we haven't heard anything from Herb, and it's been connected and turned on, so.
It has been turned on?
Yes.
I move that it's been met, even though we don't have an official sign-off from the water department if they've turned it on. I'm sure they wouldn't if they didn't approve it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We also would have heard from Herb, as you all know,
Yeah.
if there's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
It's been moved and seconded that number 13, on-site water supply has been met. All those in favor? 500. 14, soil erosion.
I would move that it's not applicable because there's no construction, so there will be no soil movement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that number 14, soil erosion has been met. There's no disturbance at all of the soil, whether it be for a parking lot or anything else. So, and apparently we would get into soil erosion then. So it's been moved and seconded, that's been met. All those in favor? 500. Septic disposal. Actually, that if we go back, that septic was double what was needed for a building that size. I believe, wasn't it, Randy? You were involved with that. And there'll be porta potties also.
So I move it's been met.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. 15, septic disposal has been met. All those in favor? 500. 16, has adverse effect on historic sites, wildlife habitats, and natural areas or property values. No one's come through with any thing saying their property value would be met. The abutters haven't said anything at all. There are no, according to the comprehensive plan that has historic sites and wildlife habitats, there is nothing located in that area.
I'll make a motion that number 16 has been met because no one has challenged any of the described items in 16.
It's been moved and seconded that 16 has been met, adverse effects. All those in favor? 500. 17, financial capacity. The applicant shall demonstrate adequate financial and technical capacity to meet those above standards.
I move that it's been met, he's in business now, and certainly has the financial capability.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that 17, financial capacity has been met. All those in favor? 500. Number 18, air quality. The development shall not significantly add to existing air pollution.
I'll make a motion that is not applicable because he's not proposed any type of operation that would affect air pollution.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that air quality has been met. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, at this time, we'll take a motion on the application itself.
On the entire application,
Yeah.
I move we accept the application as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the application be met as presented, or approved as presented. All those in favor? 500. Okay, I have 2 copies someplace here of the application. And if you just bear with us. Here's one, two. Yeah, it should be. Well, you know what? You find it? That's how I was looking. There it is. Very good. Thank you for finding it.
I'll let you fill it in, I'm just gonna sign it.
Yeah, sign it. I'm sorry. Tom, after you're finished signing that, can you give that to the applicant, and we'll keep the second one as a file copy? Thank you very much. Good luck. Next on the agenda is number 7, expiration of the Silverleaf subdivision. I think that I've given everyone a copy of page 25 of the subdivision ordinance, which states that failure to complete substantial construction of the subdivision within 5 years date of approval and signing of the plan shall render the plan null and void. You should also have in that packet a copy of a letter that I sent out on December 23rd to the Silverleaf Development Corporation, so stating,
Did you hear anything back from them at all?
no response whatsoever.
So what do we need on this? A motion to officially expire them?
Yeah. If you want to call it that, yeah. And then I have a certificate of expiration for everyone to sign.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Silverleaf Development Project is officially expired.
Okay, let me just add that
Sure.
both James and I did get a call from a person saying that she was advising the Development Corporation as to how to proceed to make some money out of this endeavor. And she was going to advise them to forget about the subdivision and sell it as one complete piece of property. So this may be why we didn't get a response.
Is that motion been seconded? I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? 5-0-0. I have 2 copies of this certification of expiration. And there's a post-it for file copy, and give that one to Randy. And we'll have to file that with the registry. The other one, give back to me, and I'll make sure it's sent out to the corporation tomorrow.
I think I see it for sale once as a lot, too, somewhere.
Pardon?
I think I see it for sale once as a lot,
Really?
one lot.
Oh, there's been a sign up there for a long time as one lot, I believe.
I go by so fast I can't see it.
While we're doing that, Randy, do you have anything under CEO report?
just for the CEO, just for the report this month, December was really, nothing came in at all in December. Basically, I just worked with the stuff that we had, the material we had, trying to work on this project that you approved tonight. Worked with George on some of the wording and helped him with that. But as overall, December was really slow. I do suspect that we will have a site plan coming in for the next month. I haven't heard any, I'm not definite on it, but I do know that, pretty sure this site plan coming in next month. So otherwise than that, like I said, it's starting off the new year right, but no big issues of any kind.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Under other business, there is a word on the street that the 10-lot subdivision that we haven't approved, or approved with a condition, is going to go up for sale as a complete unit, and not the subdivision.
The one next to the events,
Yeah.
proposed event center, okay.
Yeah.
It's a bed and breakfast.
Okay, open to the public.
Is this, oh yeah, it is working, okay. I just had two very quick questions as I was listening to the proceedings here, and I'm sure there's a very quick answer to them. I know everybody's eager to get home. The building that was just approved for the event center was originally built as a one-family home, was it not? That was wasn't that built as a one-family home originally?
There's two buildings there.
Oh, two buildings. And I'm guessing that the septic system there was probably, the size of it was based on the number of bedrooms in the houses, or?
No, that's what I said. It's double what's required for a family home.
Oh, okay. Because, they were talking about maybe having events of 200 people, and I was just wondering if that was going to overburden it. But the other question I had is some of the questions that you asked the applicant. For example, you asked them about the sign that they're planning on putting out, and they said the sign was going to be approximately the same as the veterinary office that's down the street from them. And I was just wondering, is that included in the permit that you signed and gave to them?
There is no permit.
The approval, the thing that you just signed and
Right.
gave them the...
That's not a permit.
Okay,
There is
well-
no technically a
Okay,
permit.
because but my concern there was that, and I'm not worried about, these
Sure.
are very nice people, and I'm sure that they dealt with us very fairly, but it's just kind of a matter of principle. In the past, when promises have been made and not noted down in the document that you keep there, there was no way to enforce those agreements if the applicant later on decided not to honor them. And so that was just a case in point. If the size of that sign and the lighting on the sign was included in the document that you all signed.
That's part of no. We signed the application. We'll also next meeting sign a finding of facts and a conclusion of law. That will be included. All those 18 finding of facts will be included in that.
Okay, good, and thank you very much. I was just, because of all the questions about this in the past, I was just interested to know how that worked.
Sure.
And I don't really know very much about how your board works and how these things become enforceable. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Harlan?
George and members of the board, I wrote you a letter about fireworks and stuff. Did any of you get that? Did you see it? I see a lot of quizzical looking faces.
How
No?
long ago was that, Harlan?
I beg your pardon?
How long ago?
Oh, no, it was right after the last time we had a meeting. You know how it is after the meeting, you go home and think, oh, geez, I should have mentioned this. Well, I thought about fireworks, and so I sat down and wrote an email. That's my problem. And I sent it to James and asked and Tom and asked them to forward it to you guys because I didn't know how to get in touch with you. And then I didn't get any word. I sent it to Tom again, and still haven't heard. You didn't get it, Tom, ever? And I don't know what happened to it, but now it's all over, said and done, it's kind of like a moot point. But I wanted to bring up the fact that I noticed last time when you had your meeting that Mr. Probert said that they learned some pretty important lessons the hard way from other experiences, and they were going to try to be more proactive and prevent problems from cropping up. And I think there might be a problem that crops up, and it has to do with fireworks. Now, if you go by the idea that Mr. Probert suggested that the rentee be considered the landowner, then it's legal in Maine for the landowner to have fireworks displays, pretty much at their discretion. They could be really often as they turn over, as often as the people like it. You got enough money to rent a place by the ocean in the summertime, you got enough money for a fireworks displays like any time you want. I think that in lieu of the fact that there's a buffer between them and the Belfast guys, that's good, but it doesn't count for fireworks displays. That buffer in the ground doesn't count. The noise comes from above, and I don't know if you can handle it somehow to have the landowner forbid them after certain hours, but I mean, fireworks got to be at night, right? I mean, I don't know if the decibel things cover that kind of stuff, that noise from that. Is it long enough? Is it long enough duration? Are the lights bright enough? Because if there are people down there, and there will be someday, I bet you the people on Belfast side, if you said, hey, it comes with free fireworks every night, they might have gotten back to you. I don't know. But I wanted to bring that up and something for you to consider. Too late now. But maybe a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, a current problem would be the lack of ability to contact you. I don't know how do we do that? If we have a concern we want to bring up to the board, how do we do that?
Contact Tom or any board member. Just what you did.
Just what I did that didn't work.
I can't help it. Tom didn't get the email.
That's what I suspected. There were people that I didn't have emails for that didn't have emails. I thought perhaps there's no way that we can do it. So instead of suggesting a way to do it, it's just like try again and see what happened with the same system that didn't work.
You can drop it off a letter to the town office, mail a letter, snail mail to the town office.
Yeah, we all have boxes downstairs, and I'm sure they'll be glad to put one in each box.
Yep.
Yeah, we could find out what happened to the one I sent originally too, why that didn't get posted, I suppose. I wonder what happened to that, because I thought I was doing that. This is the electronic age. I thought I was sending something that could be taken and distributed into your boxes, but...
You can also, there's a form on the website you can fill out and send that in too.
All right, okay.
I think from the last meeting, the applicant had said they weren't going to allow fireworks on their property too.
No, I didn't, I was listening and I didn't catch that, but there's nothing...
Maybe I'm wrong, but
But if he said it, I mean, you know, a lot of people say a lot of things, and I heard that if it's not in writing, you can't enforce it. I don't know how true that is, but I heard that.
It's illegal for anybody but the owner to set off fireworks.
Yeah, but if you're going to consider, George, that's exactly my point, see? Bruce said that you could have a wedding there, a big event wedding there, anytime you wanted, because if you had a regular house, you could have it there, because you're the owner and you could have a house. And these renters were going to be considered owners for that purposes. That's what he said.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, so the renters are not going to be considered the owners, they're going to be considered renters. And the owner of the property is going to be the guy that owns the property, right?
That's right.
For all facts and purposes.
Yep.
All right, okay. Thank you very much for your time.
It's gonna cost them Belfast, they got the chairs setting up already for the fireworks.
Yeah, for the first week, maybe. After that, you'll hear from them. Thank you.
Thanks, Harlan. Ted, did you have your hand up? Or, oh, I'm sorry. Jay.
Send him to Bonnie, free fireworks every night.
Back in October, I made a request of the planning board to require Maine Materials to submit an application to modify their permit based on the fact that they misrepresented what they were actually going to be doing as far as nighttime operations and lighting that they were using. I was told that I had to put that into writing to Randy Hall, which I did by a letter on October 20th. You folks told me I had to do that, but that you would be consulting your attorney. I haven't had any report back from anyone as to what has happened. So I guess I'm requesting.
Okay. That was given to Randy, and I believe you got permission to give that to your attorney. I would think that you should make arrangements and contact Randy during his office hours, and he can expound on that with you.
But as the planning board, you are going to review that and make a determination about whether you would require Maine Materials to, just as Maine DEP has done, requiring them to submit an application to modify their permit. Have you made a decision on doing that?
That's been turned over to Randy.
And where does that stand?
If you want to take some time tomorrow to come in, and I can explain to you what that all is, but it was mentioned at the last meeting, I believe, but I requested from the select board to get the attorney's opinion on this, because anytime you talk with an attorney, it costs money. So I went to the select board, they gave me that option, and I contacted our attorney, and they gave us the answer that it is not the planning board's responsibility, it's mine to do that, but there are very limited areas that you can go into. So I've been working with that and with the attorney to address this problem or concern.
So basically, nothing's happened. Nothing's going to happen, you're saying?
Nothing has happened at this time, but I'm working.
Are you still considering the possibility of requiring Maine Materials to?
From everything that I've learned from both MMA and our attorney,
My understanding was that a new attorney was hired to address this issue. Is that correct?
a new attorney,
That there was a new attorney, that you're consulting with a different attorney than?
I've been talking to a different attorney, yes. But both the MMA lawyer and our attorney and our town attorney, or the attorney I've been using from the town, has stated that because of this circumstances in this, and going back to the planning board to review this again, how do I put this? It would be a hard place to go back because of the fact of not having proof of such a matter that these things were said and done. So the thing to do is to work with this company to correct this situation.
Now, Maine DEP is requiring that Maine DEP is saying that they did not represent correctly what they're actually doing and have required that they resubmit an application to modify their permit. I don't understand how you can say that. I mean,
DEP has that
well,
authority.
DEP told, Jim Byer, Maine DEP, told me that the town of Searsport does have the responsibility, enforcement responsibilities, that they can make recommendations, requirements of a company like this if they're operating outside of what the permit is supposed to be.
All I can do, Jay, is again, just repeat what the attorneys have said. I have to go by the attorneys, not by Jim Byer, the DEP, or anybody else. Not that I don't respect them, because I do, but I have to go with the responsibility of.
So I didn't hear that they said that you couldn't do it, but they're saying that maybe they're not recommending that you don't do it, or I'm not clear what you're saying. I don't know if you folks understand what he's saying.
Do you want to make an appointment, Randy?
What's that?
Would you make an appointment that Jay can
Yes,
come in to
absolutely.
you and you can explain things to
Absolutely.
him?
If you want to come in tomorrow, Jay,
I'd like to get it in writing as far as what this attorney is recommending, has
Well,
recommended.
if you want to come in tomorrow, I'll sit down, we'll go over it, or Thursday, you call me, and I'll go over it with you.
Okay, I'll make an appointment with you.
Anyone
You folks
else?
haven't consulted-
Pardon?
I was also told by you that you would consult the attorney, the planning board would consult their attorney relative to my request that you require this company to resubmit their application to modify the permit. But that I had to put that request in writing to Randy, which I did.
Right.
So where do you stand on my request?
We're going by what Randy has found out.
And what is that, by your understanding?
Why don't you make an appointment and talk to him? Anyone else? Okay, if not, we'll adjourn the meeting. Next meeting is February 8th. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you.